we moved to Iowa City, Coralville area in 1989, and first resided in Coralville at the Scottsdale Apartments. We went to First Church one Sunday and decided that that wasn't where we wanted to be. It seemed sort of rigid and not as friendly as what we were looking for. And the music program sounded like they had all the professionals they needed, so we weren't going to go there. We decided to check out St. Mark's because I knew a cousin of Dale Batchelor, who was a pastor at the time, knew his cousin, and had visited them quite a bit. And they say, well, when you get to Iowa City, check out for where Dale's at. So we did. And
Nice.
there happened to be a musical that day, which was right up our alley. It was a kids' musical put on by Carol Rausch. And we started coming back after that, and we've been there ever since.
Nice. So tell me about those musicals and what they were like, because St. Mark's used to have a lot of musicals, didn't they?
Well, they had several, yeah. This was, I think, maybe at the end of Bible school. It seemed like it was maybe August sometime that we came and visited, or it might have been something they put together for the start of school. But yeah, they had, it was a children's musical. And as far as musicals at the church that we've been involved with, they've been primarily the Easter cantata or Christmas cantatas. I was active in the Iowa City Community Theater for a while, and that was where I had gotten a musical here, but had been in ones previously in other locations.
Nice. So tell me, what have been the interesting things about St. Mark's history that you've lived through?
Well, when Dale left, I happened to be the chair of the SPPRC and had the first contact with our then assigned pastor, who was Harlan Gillespie. We had, in talking, I think it was maybe Bruce O was our district superintendent at the time. And when we got done telling him as the committee what we were looking for in a pastor, he said, well, there's only been one person that could meet that, and he walked on water. So it wound up that when I came back to announce Harlan coming as the new pastor, I said, the district superintendent had told us that there was only one person that could meet our qualification or our needs, and he walked on water. I said, but we're getting one that can walk on water in the wintertime. He was coming from Lake Park.
There you
go. I first met Harlan in person early on and I think that might have been 1992 or 93, but anyway, he was at the University of Iowa Fieldhouse with Aaron, their son, who was in Special Olympics.
Nice.
Harlan and I spent several hours that day just chatting, and we talked many times on the phone in between his appointment and his coming to St. Mark's. So that was a memorable moment. I was on the building committee for the education wing, and that was a lot of meetings. We had, after we determined that we needed to really look into something, we got 3 architect firms to do some planning of site and what we might be able to expect with what we had for space and in parking areas and all that. And we determined, and I can't think of the name of the architect firm, but they were out of Cedar Rapids. they came down with 3 different options, and the committee decided one of them and presented that to the congregation, basically, in meetings, and those never happened. We liked the one that I think we at one point had a model of what it would look like, but we couldn't gain the space that we felt we needed at that point, because we were growing and looking forward to more growth and need of space. And that's actually what led us to the purchase of the property out on Taft Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
There's been several others over the years, but those were a couple of them that stood out in my mind at the time.
Have there been some influential people, lay people or pastors that have really built up your faith or made a difference in your faith?
Yes, there have been. I think one of the biggest things was not pastor related, but youth related in some of the mission trips that we took.
Mm-hmm.
We went to West Virginia, we went to Kentucky, we went to Tennessee, and each time we went, we came back from those really inspired and yet humbled by what we saw, what we did, the people that we met, and that sort of thing. We did have a very good turnout of youth, and we had, I think, 4 or 5 couples that went along as chaperones.
Awesome.
And uniquely, the last mission trip that I went on, there were only 2 youth and 2 adults that went. Nancy Doyle and myself and Sarah, and we went to the same camp that the current youth groups have been to a couple of times, and that's Camp Baker. It was a very, very good trip, even though it was just 4 of us.
How about any particular classes or I know you've been part of Bible studies that what really built up your faith?
There I can go back to a couple of classes that we had. One was a study of Mark, and it was, well, I worked with it some, but Todd Wiblin and Karen Kuntz were a couple that were very involved with the church, St. Mark's, and led that class. Todd is a doctor, medical doctor, and Karen was I think she was a nurse, but she was also active in I think it was the university's education system, but I can't think of it right now. We've had a number of classes, sometimes involving videos. Tony Campolo, we've had a couple of his programs as visuals, and currently we're studying one of Jimmy Carter's books, Journey of Faith, I believe. I was the treasurer of the Methodist Men in Iowa City before Jim Wood. I turned my books over to Jim, and Jim just recently, within the last year and a half or so, turned the books over to Bob Kesselring.
Any particular things that the Methodist Men did over the years that are real memorable to you?
Well, the gift for parents, of course, is one big one that the Methodist Men participated in making the pancakes for hundreds of people. And I don't know, the involvement with the chicken barbecue is probably a lot of the Methodist men were in that and made up a good share of the at least the pit crew, and couples beyond that, or the drive-through was run by, I think, Kay a lot of the times, Kay Secret. But as the Methodist men aged, so did our age group of the Methodist men. And with that, the ability or desire to be as heavily involved. So we've kind of shrunk in numbers, and it kind of parrots the age groups of the attenders of St. Mark's.
St. Mark's has kind of been on you've been a part of when it was really growing, and then you've been a part of seeing it kind of go into a decline.
Right.
What do you think the reasons are that that happened, that we stopped growing and started to slide into decline?
Well, the decline, I don't think, is unique to St. Mark's. I think most of the Methodist or maybe even Protestant churches are experiencing declines. Part of it is that we don't have that middle-aged family groups in here. There was a time when we were really growing and stuff that we had a lot of folks in the 40 to 60 age group, and those became 50 to 70, and then they became 70 and up. And that lag or break in there has declined in membership, and we're battling a lot of things in these times with no longer having a church week, a church day in the week other than Sunday. It used to be that you could get people together on various nights of the week for either meetings or services. Kids' involvement in sports has taken away the Sunday mornings as well as the weekday evenings.
Survey that we did showed that there's been conflict, that people feel some of that conflict still, in their hearts or in their minds. What do you think have been some of the bigger conflict issues that St. Mark's has had to deal with and maybe needs to still deal with?
Oh gosh, there's several. The Methodist position on human equality or sexual preferences, that's been a big divisive item, not just with St. Mark's, but everywhere. We've had folks that prior to this becoming a primary issue that were disagreeing with what they were hearing from the pulpit and some of the previous pastors. And rather than argue and push their points with SPPRC or whomever else, administrative council, decided to just step back and go back into the woodwork more or less.
What do you dream for St. Mark's?
That's a good question. The need for younger families. People in my age group are dying off, and active and more vibrant. Not that we don't have a vibrant community at St. Mark's right now, but that we could bring others in, a growth instead of the decline that we've experienced. That gets painful when you are faced with some of the issues that you're facing. I've been here when we were, well, maybe not to the point we are right now, but we've been through this with the parish nurse program, the children's ministry programs, that I would pray to God for. I don't know, maybe that's part of my problem. Maybe I need to pray to God more for St. Mark's. But You know, that may be it. We're not able to do it ourselves. We've got to listen.
Good.